Well, hello, that's me again. It is the 5th of April. It is Wednesday. Don't be surprised with the fact that I'm coming up with my videos so often now, like every other day. I probably will slow down somewhat down the road, but we are living in the situation of the true quickening, and things happen so fast nowadays that you just, you have to stay in the state of awe of what is unfolding in front of our eyes. And when I wrote my book, which you saw yourself, Disintegration, which was 2 years ago, I certainly saw the possibility it doesn't mean that it was and would be highly probable, but the possibility that the United States will simply disintegrate. But now with this circus, and it's a tawdry political circus in the United States always for the last many years, with those elections and now with the Democratic National Committee and Democratic Party essentially sabotaging their country. And I seldom comment on this tawdry circus, but today I will, because after Mr. Trump, whom I don't like, after 2018, after his military, political, and national security team have been gathered around him, which was a complete neocon cabal, I really lost any kind of faith in him. And yeah, he is primarily very big mouth narcissist, as pretty much anybody in the political top in the United States. But look at this. Even this uber-liberal Atlantic has to admit that what Donald Trump's indictment reveals, and win or lose, the charges are an American tragedy. Well, these are just the shallow view of the things which are unfolding with this political and other circus related to indictment of Mr. Trump or whatever. I read 34 things, whatever, 34 items of indictment, and it's like, yeah, same old, some kind of fraud on some financial things. Okay, that's fine. But Atlantic talks about this tragedy, pardon my French, and we have other primarily liberal publications, including the New York Times and others, which basically lament the fact that, yeah, you know what is unfolding here is horrible, and you know what, who knows where it leads? Well, it leads to the constitutional crisis inevitably, and of course it's one of the fundamental conventions of the American political life throughout the existence of the United States as a nation, that you don't touch former presidents, have been violated. And we already can see a huge schism in the country, although I have to admit that probably many people on the so-called left, it's not left, make no mistake, they do not like what is going on themselves. But well, leave it for now with that. But you have to understand, United States loves its political show, and it broadcasts it around the world usually. And believe me, world is not populated with stupid people. In fact, I would say that many political elites in other countries are much more qualified and much more smarter than American political elites. In fact, I am on the record, the American political elites of today, it is a catastrophe in terms of the competences and in terms of the morals and ethics and what have you, something which defines the people who are supposed to lead the country somewhere. It goes without saying that the United States is being run into the ground due to the internal political dynamics, and obviously now we have this external political dynamics, geopolitical dynamics. And to demonstrate this to you, we will start with something which many people still try to figure out how it is related. It's related directly. If you look attentively at Le Figaro, and this is obviously one of the most important, most influential newspapers in French, you see this political observer Renaud Girard, who basically announces that, yeah, the world is de-dollarizing with huge speed. And if you go to the English version of this article, it's there we go, as he stated it a couple of days ago, Since the Bretton Woods agreements, the United States has dominated trade thanks to its currency. However, their control by weaponization of the dollar has begun to run out of steam since the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Oh, here it is. We have the guy who really understands all that. That is why Russians do not want to end up this conflict now. And that is why it dictates the operational strategic approach of Russians towards, for example, Bakhmut. Yeah, it's all about culling of the not only just armed forces of Ukraine, which again we're looking at the third iteration being obliterated, but also NATO. And if we go further with all that and we discuss those obvious connection between Russia in Ukraine and NATO and the United States, we begin to kind of get this how to put it politely, understanding why Mr. de Gaulle in 1965, obviously a legendary French president, a giant, a titan, which dwarfs all this modern French poodle, Mr. Macron. And in 1965 press conference, the visionary General de Gaulle castigated the exorbitant privilege of the dollar. And basically he explains why it was an exorbitant privilege and how today we can observe how the United States basically lost this exorbitant privilege. Because the rest of the world, about 85% of the world said, yeah, you know what, we don't need you. We don't need the dollar. And this is not just the dollarization. And people think that some other new currency will immediately pop up as the reserve currency. No, I mean, yuan probably will eventually at some point of time occupy more percentage points as the or share of the payments in a Russian stock exchange and foreign whatever the financial operations. Now yuan dominates, but it's the same goes for ruble obviously, and the same goes for rupee. And you already heard about those contracts which India signs with like Malaysia a few days ago, and you begin to pay in rupees, and you remove dollar, you remove the euro, and you remove the yen, and there you go, simple as that. But this is not just all of it. We already know that obviously behind the whole situation, which is unfolding with incredible speed, I mean incredible, it's unbelievable. Just to give you an example, today Russian frigate Admiral Gorshkov, the carrier of Zircon missiles, by the way, so, and when the thing moves, it's 1,500 kilometers around it, which anything could be sunk with a single salvo. It's already visited together with its other accompanying vessel, Saudi Fort of Jeddah. This is unheard of. But there you go. Saudis absolutely are going for Jena, they're going for BRICS, they're going to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's pretty much it, guys. And when you look at this, when you begin to put this together, to kind of trying to understand how the hell it all happens, why the things collapse like this, why do we observe this disintegration of the so-called Pax Americana, of the so-called old now. We're looking at the New World Order coming, but this is the Old World Order, in which they call it rules-based order, or basically the American imperialism. How this is happening that it's just collapsing with such incredible speed? Well, we have to talk now again, not just about the economic system, which doesn't work anymore, because the whole West was financialized to the point of ridiculousness. And now, can you imagine, we have Mr. Despoodle from Paris being in China and issuing warnings to Mr. Comrade Z. France is a pipsqueak militarily and especially economically compared to China. How this guy thinks that he's so important is just beyond me. I mean, but again, this is the modern Western elite, which have won for many years. We had this cognitive deterioration of those people. We have the epistemic closure. Those people know nothing. They are absolutely incompetent, apart from the fact that many of them being fanatics and American exceptionalists, including even those who are supposedly called realists. They're not realists. They're still American exceptionalists. It's just that they are less fanatical than the rest of them. And when you look at this, you begin to understand the depth of the tragedy, really, of the horrendous disaster which befell combined West, including the United States. Just to give you an example, a couple days ago, European Commission, well, actually, yeah, yesterday, so the European Commission issued a joint statement by the EU and the US following the 10th EU-US Energy Council. And look what they write there. Transatlantic Energy Cooperation continues to contribute to the stability and transparency of global energy markets by promoting energy diversification and security. Start laughing. I laughed first time when I was reading this. It's, guys, Soviet party congresses have nothing on this. But, okay, let's continue. Endorsing energy efficiency measures, developing technologies contributing to the transition towards net zero emissions by 2050. That means it's a euphemism, zero emissions. I mean, yeah, they will be all freaking dead and they will emit nothing because the economies of the Europe will be dead by that time. And then, of course, they go, and through research, innovation, aligned policies, and business cooperation, accelerating the energy transition. And then they continued with this, and the EU and the United States are strategic partners who remain committed to achieving net zero emissions. And let me tell you, United States is definitely leading the charge because, yes, it's contributing tremendously to the zero emission by Europe by means of deindustrializing it. And by 2050, well, you know what, I don't want to sound too cynical, but in terms of most of European countries, we will see the Morgenthau Plan. And if you remember the Morgenthau Plan, as he presented it to Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1945, by the end of the war, and Ike was appalled by this, he wanted the Germans to tend the beets fields. That's it. You know, he wanted to turn Germany into the agricultural nation. But it looks like the United States goes even further than that. They want to turn Germany and the rest of the Western Europe into the agricultural nations with the semi-literate population and sell the American shit, which America will be able to produce by that time to them for whatever the money. I have no clue how they think, but let me demonstrate to you why this statement of EU and United States is reasonable. We will start with this thing. Look who is European Commissioner for Energy. Look at her, Kadri Simpson. She is from Estonia, the mighty country, mighty nation of Estonia, which already lost about half of its population since the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and so it's probably going to lose more. They immigrate to all kinds of different countries, and plus they're just simply dying out. They do not procreate. Look what she says. She has, this commissioner, she has degree in history. Wow. Yeah, and sure, degree in history is really a requirement for the people who are in charge of energy, power generation, grid, and things of this nature. But look at this. She also has master's degree in political science, University College, London. Okay, all right, this is Europeans. We know that their elites are not normal people. But let's take a look who is the US Secretary of Energy. Okay. U.S. Secretary of Energy is Jennifer Mulhan Granholm, and she is Canadian-American lawyer, educator, author, political commentator, and politician serving as the 16th U.S. United States Secretary of Energy. In other words, she is a lawyer. She has degree in law in political science. Okay. So let's continue. But maybe she has a deputy who is a professional. Okay, let's go. U.S. Deputy David Turk is an American attorney serving as the United States Deputy Secretary of Energy in Biden's administration. So he worked in National Security Council. He was the International Energy Agency Deputy Executive Director. So the guy has degree in the law. Nothing wrong with being a lawyer. We need lawyers. And by the way, with this Trump circus, what lawyers have the field day, really. And fact is, I, for example, cannot comment on anything because I don't understand. I don't have the Juris Doctor. But this guy who runs, who is the second guy in the energy department of Biden administration. He is a lawyer. I'm not talking about the guy who was in charge, this transgender transvestite dude who was in charge of the some nuclear disposal thing. But hey, he had the fetish of stealing luggage from people. Thankfully now he is out. But you know what? That's the kind of people who are working in the West, and they run things. I would have to clarify a little bit. They run things into the ground, but they are the guys with all those degrees in history, political science, and law. And especially when you look at that thing which is called energy. Of course, who needs engineering in energy and power generation? All those, oh God, electronics, electrical, mechanical systems, automatic systems, high-level mathematics. It's so 20th century. We need to get all those guys into the top positions and see what happens, right? Well, let me give you a comparison. For example, the present Minister of Energy of Russian Federation, Mr. Shulginov. As you can see yourself, Mr. Shulginov, he graduated from Novocherkassk Polytechnic Institute with a degree in power supply to industrial enterprises and cities. From 1976 to 98, he worked as the one of the Stavropol major grid companies in Petigorsk, where he held a position from engineer to head of the Central Dispatch Service. Since 98, he worked as a deputy director in the branch of the RAO, Unified Electrical Networks of Russia. And again, he was the major guy also over the dispatch administration. So, yeah, he is an engineer. Primarily electrical engineer. He is the engineer who understands how the power grids operate, how the energy is generated, be it through hydroelectric means, be that from nuclear and what have you. And then when you look at this, wow, the guy's engineer. Let me show you something. This is the Penn State list of the some basic courses which you will need for the electrical engineering, and which are obviously profession which you need to have to get into the high position in terms of handling the power generation and grid in such, especially such huge nations as the United States, Russia, or China. Look at this, and just look at it. It just Penn State 9-credit online electrical engineering post-baccalaureate program. So that means, yeah, if you have just bachelor's, it's not enough. You need to have the graduate degree, and preferably actually postgraduate degree, including administrative skills to get into the position of running something, let's say, on the level of, in the United States, let's say county or state grid and power generation. Here it is. You can take a look. Linear systems, the domain and transforms analysis. Engineering electromagnetics, probability, random variables, and stochastic processes, linear control systems. Oh, let me tell you, that is a very interesting thing. Then you have smart grid control and dynamics, special topics, advanced engineering mathematics, special topics, linear discrete time control systems. So when you go over it, and you can look up those courses, and you can take actually not necessarily even postgraduate or postgraduate courses. You can take even bachelor's level tasks and problems. Give it second year bachelor degree in electrical engineering problem on some kind of the automatics, and give it to those energy people from EU and United States and ask them to solve that. Well, we know what's going to happen, right? So there you go. That pretty much explains it all. And that explains why the country goes to hell. I'm talking about the United States. Europe, pardon my French, it's done. There's no way of coming back from it. And especially with people in charge who are right now in charge there, and people who vote for them. That is why I look at the proceedings, so to speak, in Paris regarding the pension reform riots. Hey, you voted for it. I'm sorry, guys. No matter what you tell me, you voted for it. Marine Le Pen was thrashed in the polls. So there you go. You get what you get, you know. So Russians paid the price in 1990s. But hey, what do I know? And so when you look at this and you begin to kind of review it all in the perspective, so to speak, you begin to understand to what degree of the sheer idiocy all this is drowned now. And look at this. Just to demonstrate to you. Here's, for example, Fitch. Fitch ratings, Fitch downgrades 3 Russian diversified industrials, reflecting increased financial risks. This is Friday, March 4, 2022. This is a week, well, actually 10 days after Russia invaded Ukraine, and one of those industrials which have been downgraded and to the minus whatever their ratings is Transmash Holding. What is Transmash Holding? Russian Transmash Holding is a huge, it's 50 plus thousand employees, company which produces rolling stock. And believe me, Russians produce nowadays rolling stock which is Russian, and I mean be them synchronous electrical motors which Russia produces now, to diesel engines, to, and some of them state of the art. And while the Fitch last year was reducing those ratings, citing of course all kinds of the circumstances which are politically driven, let's put it this way, we have this news just a few days ago, and look at this. India. The Indian Railway has issued a letter of award, LOA, to Russian rolling stock company Transmash Holding to start the necessary preparation to manufacture 120 sleeper rakes of the Vande Bharat Express at Latur. With this issue of LOA, the contract stands concluded, the letter issued by the Railway Store's executive director on March 29. This Transmash Holding thingy won the contract, which is $1.7 billion. And it's for 200 trains, including their, obviously, their engines themselves. And guess whom they beat? This Transmash Holding. Oh, it beat all of the competitors from Europe, from Siemens to what have you. Just simple as that. Well, there you go. How much this rating works out now, huh? Well, it doesn't work, because practically every single financial and industrial rating in the West today is a fraud. It's politically driven thing designed to promote very often a really shoddy technology, and some technology which is not that good. That is why, for example, when Macron issues something against China, warning that, oh, you cannot supply weapons to Russia, not that China wanted to supply or Russia needs this supply of weapons from China, but he issued the warning. Is the guy idiot? You think so? Does he think that Comrade Z, the man in charge of the largest economic power in history, is going to like that with some pipsqueak from Western Europe and with his basically capital city of Paris, not only burning but also stinking like hell with the more than 7,000 tons of garbage in it? Not that Paris didn't stink with the urine before. And there you go. Those people completely lost their shorts, so to speak. They lost all their bearings. They don't understand that they're being right now laughed at across the board, militarily, economically, politically, in what any socially. Culturally, let alone, we're not even going there. I don't even want to go there. Discussing the modern Western culture with the pretty much promoting pedophilia, transgenderism, and all other perversions. But here it is, just to show you that how full of, pardon my friend, French excrement those people are. Here's the lament from oil price and the Reuters. Now they lament this. Russian Urals breaks past 60 price cap thanks to OPEC Plus, and they just really cannot take this anymore. Although they were told that, guys, yeah, for after 2-3 months of volatility, things will go not your way but Russian way. But look at this. While they lament this, I don't know who this Charles Kennedy is, some kind of, oh yeah, writer. We have this Charles Kennedy thing referencing the Reuters report as which cites the Russian Finance Ministry report. Look what is important here. On Wednesday, the Kremlin noted a 43% year-on-year drop in federal budget revenues from oil and gas in March. First, lie immediately. It's not in March. It is the report which was issued in March, but the losses which have been accounted for are only for January and February this year. That means for 2 months. And this is what Reuters reports, citing the Russian Finance Ministry. Of course, it lies, but I will give it a talk in a couple minutes. Look at this. Then he continues with this. There was no drop in oil and gas revenues for the federal budget months on months from February to March due to the collection of quarterly mineral extraction profit taxes on the industry, which made up for losses. Well, yeah, remember December 2022, the G7 introduces this oil cap, price cap, which of course been violated already, not by everybody, but even by the G7 member Japan, which buys now over this price cap. But look at this. And here, I don't know, what the hell is wrong with the mathematics with those people? For example, Charles Kennedy evidently begins to go into some kind of a complete fantasy land. Look at this. Russia recorded budget revenues from oil and gas sales at nearly 8.7 billion in March, up slightly from February, but down significantly from March last year, when oil and gas sales revenue for the federal budget topped 1.2 trillion. I don't know where the hell he got this number, but let me explain what this number is. 1.2 trillion dollars. I don't even know. You know what? I cannot even continue to comment on this bullshit because those people just pulled numbers out of their asses. Let me show you something. This is official Russian revenue for 2022. Look at this. It is in the trillions of rubles, and as you can see yourself, it underlined in red. At 2022, Russian revenues in trillions of rubles was 11.59 trillion rubles, which, when converted to dollars, roughly equals $165 billion for the whole year. Where this goddamn side gets this stupid number of 1.2 trillion remains a complete mystery. Not to speak of the fact that here is the original of Russia's finance ministry. This is their explanation of the, as you can see yourself, it was issued on the 6th of March, and it talks about this 46%, yes, which have been dropped, which we know why, because obviously of the mess and chaos that those price caps introduced into the already volatile gas and oil market. And they also explained that it is also was tied obviously by the lowering of the quotes on the oil by the Urals brand. And guess what? What is explained then, it shows that the appropriate changes in the tax code will be very conducive for the steady restoration of the tax revenues from oil and gas sector, especially in the second half of the current year. So these are the news, of course, which those people forget to report, because they cannot report them, because they are all liars. At least most of them are. They are full of shit, pardon my French, and that's the only thing they can do. Apart from the fact that most of them, they cannot calculate. Their mathematics is basically on the level of the third, fourth grade of the public school in some third world country. Well, I should be very cautious here, because there are some third world country schools which are really good, and they produce extremely capable students. So there you go. As you can see yourself, it lies across the board. It's lament across the board. And this thing will continue to accelerate. And, well, I will have to react to this and keep you, so to speak, abreast on that. And in conclusion today, what I want to say, when you look at the fact that, well, about 90% of Bakhmut is now cleaned, and the same thing is repeating now in around Avdiivka, because it is all, as my friend Marat Khairulin, very famous Russian and very respectable and military correspondent who have been there from the get-go, an extremely reliable and honorable man, whom I can trust. He stated yesterday, yeah, the strategy is very clear. It's basically, yeah, let them come, we'll, annihilate them. That is why Russia is not rushing anywhere. And as you can see yourself, against the background of this political and economic circus, why should she? And that's the whole point. Because in the end, it's all going to be back to the square one of Russian ultimatum in December 2021, which, and you all know the points which have been stated there, including rolling back NATO to the 1997 borders, but we can see the modification here and there depending on the situation and depending on how fast the rest of the weapons which are produced and supplied to Ukraine by West will be annihilated, and they will be annihilated, all of them, so it goes without saying. So this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys, and as always, those who want to support my channel, please subscribe to it, and those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon or buy me coffee or two. And let me tell you, I have some news. I will try I bought this chroma key thingy, the green screen, so I will try to use it upcoming in this coming months. Once it arrives, we'll see that you will not need to look at me in this form. I will probably kind of change a little bit the production values of what I do. So this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys, and hey, have a nice rest of the week. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.